Moran.
Mr. Secretary, there's an irony here that at least I see as an irony that I want to explore with you. The President announced ConnectEd initiative last June, and the goal is to get 99% of our schools across the country to be connected, and I'm certainly pleased by that. We work hard at bringing broadband services to rural America. It's a high priority for me. You have a part of that, and your budget request is for $200 million for a new ConnectEd educators, part of that program. It's to train and bring our teachers up to a level of understanding, appreciation for what may come when connectivity actually occurs. But almost 85% of the money that you're requesting of that $200 million is based upon a competitive grant. So you're asking rural and underserved areas of the country to compete for the $200 million that's in your budget. The irony of that to me is this, that we've already determined that we have these rural schools that will struggle to connect, and yet then we're making them compete for the money to help them be prepared for the money that will come. To me, this is the broader issue that I tried to raise in my opening statement, in which we have competitive grants, and this is in part me, an advocate for rural America, an advocate for a state like ours. I'll speak at graduation in a week and a half. There are 11 high school seniors graduating from the class. Those kind of circumstances can't lend themselves to being capable of competing for the grants that your department so actively promotes. And it seems to me that the point I want to make and have you respond to is, here we have a program that is initially designed to help rural schools, but even rural schools have to compete for those dollars. And already the decision has been made that there is a disadvantage, and my point being that those disadvantaged schools, whether it's this interconnectivity issue or it's Title I or it's IDEA, we just have school districts that are unlikely to be able to compete. They don't have the personnel, they don't have the grant writing expertise. It's hard to find somebody. You know, in many of our school districts in Kansas, we'll have a school superintendent who's also the building principal. And yet we're asking those schools to figure out how they compete for dollars that you want to use to promote excellence. I want to promote excellence, but I want to make certain we don't leave behind those that we claim already are underserved or disadvantaged because they're rural.
No, great questions. I actually think we have very good answers to it. Again, happy to follow up with you later. So we have, frankly, thought all these things through. When we do these competitions, we're not going to the wealthy communities. When we do Promise Neighborhoods, we're going to the most disadvantaged communities. So we are very intentionally targeting in these competitions those areas of the greatest need, not of the greatest grant writers, not of the greatest wealth. And again, sort of look program by program, school improvement grants, Promise Neighborhoods, Invest in Innovation Fund. When we did the school improvement grants that Senator Landrieu talked about, there was a huge outcry that rurals couldn't compete, wouldn't work in rural communities. Quite surprisingly to us, rural communities actually got slightly more than their fair share. They got disproportionately more of the dollars than did urban and suburban areas, and have frankly done very, very well. So you can look at sort of across what we've done. We've made significant grants in places like Appalachia. We've made grants in poor rural communities in other parts of the nation. We have done competitive priorities. We have done absolute set-asides. And again, happy to talk through the structure with you. But we think we've done, frankly, over time, a pretty good job of making sure those rural communities who don't have the fancy grant writers are being very well served. The other important point to make is that, as you guys know, if $200 million sounds like a lot, spread across 15,000 school districts, that's like pennies. And trying to, with scarce tax dollars, we're asking for $200 million. I could use $2 billion, $4 billion, pick a number. That's just not realistic in these financial times. I understand that. Trying to make sure that we have maximum impact in the places that could use the money the most. Again, not the wealthiest, not the best grant writers, but a maximum impact in the places that could use the most. The final thing I will say is that as we do the Connected Educators part, as the FCC looks to increase access to high-speed broadband, we know rural community is where the greatest need is. We know that's where the greatest cost is going to be. Just know that we are absolutely committed to serving those communities.
I don't think that there is a set-aside for rural in Connect Educator. It is a broad program for all schools across the country to compete.
So again, we're happy to work it through, but whether it's a set-aside, whether it is a competitive advantage, I want to make sure that, we want to make sure that every competition we do is being used in very different communities, because we're trying to create spots that can demonstrate best practices. So we can work through you technically how we would set this up, but rest assured we will make sure that rural communities get their fair share of those resources.
Thank you.